Hello everybody, it's part 3 of our Sew Along doll making live stream, but of course if you're watching this anytime later it won't be live, it'll just be the recorded version, but nevertheless welcome everybody who's watching now or later. And it's been a fun weekend, a long weekend as well, so hopefully you've had lots of time to get your little doll ready for the next stage. Mine is looking a little bit empty at the moment. I've stuffed one leg. She's got a hat. It's not sewn on, so I can pop that off again. And we need to finish off with the little hands as well, which I'm going to show you today, so that we can make one that's eventually going to look like that or that. One of the things that I forgot to say, and I must say it now before I forget again, when you have your pattern, from one of our doll packs, all of the patterns look like this with the leg parts. However, if you want to make a pouch doll, and I know some of you've worked that out, you obviously just keep the bit down here together, so don't cut into the bit between the legs, just keep it as one, and then you can make one that looks like it's snuggled up in a cozy sack. So I should have said that when we got to cutting the fabric pieces out, but I completely forgot. So I'm saying it now, and I know that some of you have done it exactly right. So please keep reminding me of things if I forget anything, as you have done last week as well, especially when it comes to sewing, because I'm not the most proficient sewer, especially when it comes to sewing machine or cutting out patterns. It's not something where I follow a particular etiquette of sewing, so I could be classed as a bit of a peasant sewer, if you like. But I'm trying my best, and at the end of the day it looks all right, so who cares how I got there. Anyway, it's really lovely to see you all. Let's just see who's watching today. I'm just having a quick look. Oh, there is hi Faith, I hope you're all right. I saw you had a bit of a sleepless night. I hope it's nothing too upsetting or unsettling for you, but it's lovely to have you here, and I hope you won't fall asleep. I'll shout really loud now and then. So hi Faith, hi Diane, good morning to you too. Hi Donna, nice to see you. I know everybody's really looking forward to getting the dolls finished to their final stage. Hi Chris. Chris, I've got some really good news for you. We've given it a massive push, but this morning we should have now all of the materials that you need to make these dolls. If you want to make more, they should all be listed on our website now, including the gauze or the cotton tubing that we've been using. It comes in 2 sizes. This one is 3.5 centimeters, and it stretches quite a lot to make a head of even one of the larger dolls. You can see one sitting just over there. It makes quite a large head, and I've just knocked a little doll over. And then we've also got a version which is great for the doll's house dolls. So if you want to make small dolls, then the tubing should be listed now as well. And also the extra strong thread, which I can't praise enough. It's super strong. It has got a cotton feel to it, but it is not cotton. It's a man-made fiber, but it doesn't feel plasticky at all. Quite the opposite. It feels really sort of natural, but it isn't natural. So just so you know. And we will sell this on our website now as well. So there should be everything on there now that you need to make it. We have actually got quite a variety of this lovely velour fabric. If you've liked sewing with it, and if you want it for the dolls, it's just so super soft. It's obviously something I can't really show you properly on the screen, but it is a cotton rich. It's got 80% of cotton, and the rest is a man-made fiber to keep it nice and stretchy at the same time. But it is the softest thing ever to stroke and to feel. And we have lots of different colors, not just the red, blue and yellow. We've also got 2 types of green. We've got a nice pale blue and a pink as well. I think we have 2 types of pink. And what we're doing at the moment is we're listing the matching sewing thread to go with it as well. So for example, with the yellow, I've actually used, oh please don't tell me I left that upstairs. Anyway, there's a yellow, no, it's here, it's rolled away there. I've got the yellow to match the the fabric here, and also with the blue and with the red you obviously can get the exact matching cotton. I say it's cotton, but it's actually polyester. So now what is it called? I've forgotten what it's called, but anyway, it's a Gutermann thread, in case you wonder what it is, and of course you can get that anywhere as well. But we will have the ones linked to the ones that we're using here. So let's see who else is here. That was just to let you know, Chris, and everybody else, of course. Hi, Pamela. You say good morning. It's in the middle of the night for you, right? So that's interesting. But it's really nice. Did you have to set your alarm again? And then we've got Jana here. Hi, Jana. Yes, I know. I love the yellow. It's just the sort of, it feeds my soul at the moment. This really bright sunshine yellow, and we've decided to call this doll the Sunny Doll. So we've got the Hannah's doll, we've got the Hannah doll, and now we've got the Sunny doll as well. Very exciting. Hi, Alex. Lovely to see you too. I think Kathy is not here today because she's got other things she needs to attend to, but I've seen her doll and I'm going to show you it too. Hi, Emma. Thank you for, as always, supporting me throughout this stream. Oh, yes. Well, you said that the yellow looked like banana peel, but it's and it's a really yellow banana color as well, but it hasn't reminded me of banana yet, but it does remind me of sunshine. It's such a bright lovely yellow color. So we could have called it the banana doll, but we didn't. We call it Sunny Doll. One question, Steffi: as the dolls are stuffed with wool, when they are washed, will the stuffing not felt into a lump and leave the doll looking saggy and lumpy? Okay, so basically you can wash this wool. You can do it by hand. I would recommend to do that anyway, because you don't want the washing machine to put things out of place and whatnot. Yes, and it shouldn't leave it lumpy, because as long as you wash it on a wool wash and you dry it so that the air can get to it, it should be fine. Just don't wash it so hot that the wool starts felting, because that is when the wool becomes lumpy, when you literally felt it. But also if it's nicely stuffed, fully stuffed, it shouldn't be it shouldn't get too lumpy. But in any case, do not wash it so that it felts. Especially with dolls, and there is a lot of care instructions in the back of the book. I know we all want to wash these dolls, but they actually look quite nice when they are really played with and really loved and kissed and all the rest of it. And sometimes you can make things worse if you wash them, and they look actually worse than they looked before. I think a wet cloth, wipe it off, whatever is on the surface. And wool is actually self-cleaning. So I've spoken about this before, and it sounds totally gross, but those of you who have had children wool nappies, and I don't mean that the actual nappy is wool, it's the outer, it's like a woolly pants. You can they get moist because the moisture goes into it, but you can dry them naturally, either on a radiator or just let them dry outside, and I promise you the wool never ever smells of basically. There's just a property about wool that is self-cleaning, but if you need to wash the surface, then just use a damp cloth and clean it as best as you can that way. I'm a great believer, if you give it to a child, that it builds their immune system if it's a little bit dirty, and we all can be doing with a really good immune system in our days of strange new illnesses creeping up left, right and centre. In fact, I think a lot of us live far too sterile a life, which is probably why we are quite susceptible even to bugs and stuff like that. So I'm not saying you should live in a dirty house or anything like this, but if the doll gets a little bit dirty, it's not about, you're never going to get it sterile, and it shouldn't be. It needs to be something that if you give it to a child, that they can cuddle and squeeze and chew and kiss and just do all kinds of things with it that children do with dolls when they love them a lot. So if they're a bit grubby, so be it. What else? So that hopefully answers your question, Donna. Okay, so Chris, you were wondering the same thing. I hope that's answered the question. I really wouldn't chuck them in the washing machine and put them on 60 degrees. If you need to wash them, do it on the most gentlest setting that you have got, and definitely avoid felting. So treat it as if it's your most precious merino or cashmere jumper. It's a little bit like that. I'm experiencing a few technical problems. You keep stopping and starting, possibly an issue with my Wi-Fi. I will have a quick look to see how things are going here, but I think just bear with me. I have no idea what I'm doing here, but it kind of, I think it looks good if I pretend I know what I'm doing here. So not it looks like everything's as it should be from my end, so hopefully it's okay. Maybe we'll get okay in a minute when the Wi-Fi settles in or something. I don't know. Let me know if it's completely disastrous. Not that I know what to do about it, but we could just talk about it. So okay, so it's for you as well, Emma. Can I also just say that I'm watching myself, which sounds very vain, but I'm watching myself on YouTube as well, which is where I'm reading the comments, and I'm not stopping at my end, so I don't know. Yeah, sorry, can't help you basically. I was about to do a complete reset of the Wi-Fi and kick everyone off, but looks like I'm not the only one having issues. Oh dear, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Can you all just refresh the screen, maybe? I'm definitely not stuttering at my end here. So anyway, I'm just going to keep going. Hi, Gitta. Good morning, all. I love the yellow. Yes, we all love the yellow. It's such a happy fabric. So if you're all having massively if you can't actually hear or see what I'm doing, then just let me know. And like I say, I don't know what to do about it, but we can at least talk about it. How is it now? Anyway, so let's continue where we left off last week. And if I remember rightly, I made one of these, a little hand, and I thought I'd make the second hand just to remind you, if you haven't done them yet, how to do them. And it's basically, it's almost like a mini very, very simple head. And for this you need a square piece of fabric. The dimensions, I can't actually remember what they are, but if you've got our pack, then you should be able to just use the offcut that was left over from the head and cut it in half so that you've got one for each hand. But if you are doing this entirely from the book, then you will know that the hand is, for the hand, you need to draw a circle of about 3 centimeter. So that means that you need to have enough on the outside for there to be something extra. And now my phone's ringing. This is very inconvenient. I'm just going to stop this now. In fact, I'm going to switch my phone off. So I'm just looking. Yes, 2 pieces, 5 by 5 centimeter, which is 2 by 2 inches you would need for the hand. And to make the little hand, ideally you do them pretty much at the same time. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit less of me, but more of what I'm actually doing. Just move some of these. Oh, I've got a cup of tea here as well. It's a very aromatic one today. I haven't actually drunk it yet, but it's a rooibos tea with flavors of caramel and cinnamon in it. And it smells delicious, but with these teas, often they smell delicious, and then when you drink them, you want them to taste how they smell, and they don't. So anyway, I'm having a little drink now. But if you haven't signed up to our Facebook group, Everyone a Maker, hop over and ask to join us. We'll just ask you to answer a few questions, and then you're in, basically. Right, making a hand. So I've got my wool here. Roll it as tightly as I can into a wool ball. And I'm doing this slightly off script from the book because there is a neater way, or a different way, should I say. Not everything can be done in several ways. But for this one, I'm literally just wrapping it into the stockinette piece. really tight. Just going to check that it's about the same size, squeeze it a bit more, and then I need my extra strong thread because I'm going to put this around around the bottom now and tie it a couple of times, round it as tight as I can, and then I'm going to secure it with a knot on the top. So basically that is how I've made one hand. However, you might have a smaller piece of fabric, or you might even have a larger piece of fabric. It all depends how much you've got put to one side, or how much you've allocated. And I'm going to cut these little pieces of string off here now. There. So what we want to do is just get that doll body here. I'm going to stuff the second leg in a minute to show you how it's done. And I have also already sewn up the shoulder part. So I don't know if you have done this, but the way that I have done it is from the outside using an invisible stitch. And what I love about this velour fabric, it literally swallows up sort of any unevenness. So an invisible stitch is basically when you, just show it to you again, is when you grip a little bit of the fabric on both sides individually. So just going to show you how to do that again. So because I'm sewing this up from the outside, you have to sort of hide the end of the thread on the inside, which, just imagine I've done that now. In fact, I'll do it properly. So I just sew a bit of the thread in from the inside, like that, and then I come out on the other side and then I'm going to grip some of the fabric. So it's like almost I'm taking a little bit here. I'm going to come closer even, just watch that for a minute. There. So I grip a bit of that side, and then I also grip a little bit of the other side there. And when I pull it together, it closes up the gap in a way that it sort of makes it an invisible stitch. So you can do it all in one go. Grip a little bit of this side, then grip a little bit of the other side. And I show you that stitch again when I'm using it for the head of the doll. So that way, if you go along there, while it's still open obviously, you can make the seam disappear on the inside, so it looks as if you've sewn it up on the inside, and then I've gone over it again with a blanket stitch from the inside. So that's basically how that is done. I'm just going to cut that off because I've already done this. It's like a void step now. So now we need to stuff the doll, and we're starting with the legs. I've done one already, so I'll show you how to do the other one. And then the next thing we're going to do is we need to put the little hands into place inside the sleeve and sew them on. and obviously we then stuff the hands, and then we stuff the body. So there's 3 steps: legs, sew on the hands, and then you stuff the rest of the body basically, and then you put the head on at the very end, and then you put the hat on at the very end. So that's the order of events. So first of all, I've stuffed one of the legs, and what I've done is I've gone I've stuffed it as much as I can by pushing the wool right into it. And sometimes it really helps best if you've got say for example a knitting needle or something that you can really use to stuff it right into the leg. So I've got my stuffing wool here. Just take some, and I am pushing this into the leg part, right into the toe part with my thumb. So I'm stuffing it bit by bit. And like I say, you can use your finger here because it's quite a large area, but when you get to the arms you might need something that's a little bit smaller. So I've stuffed this side now, but it's only half, so I put a little bit more in there. You don't have to stuff your doll that solidly. If you prefer a much softer feel to it, then you can just leave them slightly sort of floppy. In fact, I used to have a little doll that I actually bought for one of my children, and it wasn't stuffed very much at all. It was a really floppy sort of soft little doll, and it was quite fun actually. So I've stuffed that leg a bit more now. So we've got the two legs are roughly about the same now. And what I don't do is I don't go much higher than this part here between the legs. If you're stuffing this doll, you will be stuffing the whole of the body in one go. And as I've mentioned before, I've actually used wool nebs to stuff this particular doll because it just, I don't know, it just gives it a kind of different feel. You've got to feel it to know what I'm talking about. It's kind of lumpy, but in a really nice way. So if you wanted to use wool nebs, we do sell them as well. But if you've had the doll with our pack, we've only used the stuffing wool. And this is our standard stuffing wool. So it's actually a great wool for stuffing. We love it. So there you are. I've got my two legs stuffed, and I'm not going further than that because what I want to do is, if you look here, I want to have the separation between the leg and the upper body, so I have a movement in those legs, so that the doll is not just splayed out. Is that a word? I've actually got the movement here in the legs because there is a gap between the body stuffing and the leg stuffing. I'm just going to check that everybody can see me now. It's a little bit better apparently. Jana says it's windy here. Always affects our internet as we live on top of a hill. It shouldn't, but it does. It's so windy at the moment. I must say the temperature has literally gone from hot to cold because of that cold wind that's suddenly emerged from somewhere. So, got your legs stuffed here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the hands into the little openings at the end of the arm. Now, if I want to sew this in here, it's gonna be hard to do that because I've got so much excess fabric. And what I don't want is I don't want to feel the fabric on the outside. I want to feel the wool stuffing. So I'm going to cut some of this off now. Be quite radical here. I'm going to do the same on the other hand. Just literally cut the end off. So I've got little bits of end fabric here that can go. And now I'm going to feed the little hands into there. Like that. And what I need to do now is, and this is where the invisible stitch comes in really helpful. What I don't want is, I don't want the ends of the fabric to show on the outside because they're slightly unsightful. So I want them to be tucked inward, and that's where the invisible stitch comes in really handy because you can manipulate the hand so that you can manipulate the sewing on of the hand so that this frayed bit of outer fabric will disappear. And so you sew this on from the outside. Just find my actually what don't use your thread that matches the fabric. Use the thread that matches your skin. And the reason for that is that this velour fabric swallows up the stitches, but the stockinette at the end doesn't. So if you use yellow, you will see it, but if you use the darker color sewing thread in my case, or whatever skin color you have got, it will just basically it will match the hand, so you won't see that. It's just a minor detail. If you've done it the other way around, it's not the end of the world. It's just if you wanted it to be not visible. Okay, that didn't work. Right, there we go. Thread my needle. And as with all the other things, I'm just securing the thread end so it's not visible on the outside. I'm just tucking that away, and then I'm going to do a couple of stitches just so that I can rely on my threads being secure. So I'm just sewing back and forth, And I do this on the outside of the velour, but in that seam under the arm, so that it's more hidden. And now I'm going to go into the hand fabric first, like that. Come a bit closer to the camera. And pull it so that the fabric, that the yellow fabric is pulling in. I think I've got too much going on in the background for the camera to focus. Maybe I need to clear the decks a bit, and then I can move a little bit closer to you. Bear with me. Getting rid of some stuff here. Move this to one side. So, okay, coming up now. So I've got my hand here, got my thread, and I pull it tight. So what I'm doing now is I'm pulling the hand in, but I'm also pulling bits of the fabric away. And as you're going along, you can tuck bits of that fabric in with your needle. So I'm gripping, this is the invisible stitch. So I'm gripping a bit of that yellow fabric, and then I'm going across to grip a bit of that hand fabric. And as you keep going along, you're tucking the two together, and it makes a really neat looking transition there. And you can also make the hand a little bit smaller that way, because you're tucking it in a little more as you're going along. So it's almost like the hand disappears into the fabric as you want it, because it looks like the hand comes out of the sleeve rather than it's being fastened onto it. So as I'm going along, I'm making sure that these bits of end of the fabric are tucked away. You can go around this pretty fast the first time round and then go over it again, or you can just do it really neatly as you're going along. In any case, it's good to go across it twice, because you want it to be rock solid on there. You don't want the hand to fall off at any point. So yeah, make sure that you've got this really nice and neatly sewn together. So gripping some of the fabric, pulling it, and then tucking a little bit more in as I'm going along, so that makes it easier for me to grip the next bit. And then go into the hand again. The secret is to pull it, and then it sort of magically disappears, the unsightful things. This is really good practice for sewing the head on as well. So getting the hand nice and neat sewn on there will be really good practice for the head. And I'm almost at the beginning where I started out. Just have to pull this in a bit more. So even if the hand is slightly bigger, it doesn't really matter. You can make it sort of disappear inside the fabric a bit more, especially if you've got, like I have here, a wrinkle. You see that? That wrinkle, you can make that disappear entirely by tucking the hand into the fabric. Turning the fabric in a bit, gripping it and pulling it, and then going along. So remember, you can go over it again a second time, so you can sort of any bits that need adjusting. My hand is probably a little bit bigger than yours because I didn't measure it. I just basically just stuffed it with a bit of wool, but that's fine. And nearly at the end, gripping some of that fabric, just pulling that in first. Sorry, I'm going all quiet as I'm trying to concentrate. And it's got my thread split, which I absolutely don't like. So I just got to pull one loop out of there. That's the culprit. I always work with a doubled up thread. I don't know if other people do, but that seems to be the most sort of sturdiest thing to do. And I'm back at the beginning, and so now I'm just going over it again just to secure the hand a little bit more. And you can work and still continue with the same stitch even though the hand looks pretty neat on there now. I am going over it again to give it a second stitch, and I'm still pulling exactly the fabric as I have done before, because you can still make it firmer that way. So you've got a seam on the inside now which you can't see, and on the outside it just looks as if you've sewn it from the wrong side, but you haven't, because you've used an invisible stitch, if that makes sense at all. So going around that again. There we go. And then when you get to the beginning the second time round, you can just tidy your thread away again in that seam under the arm. So you always work away from the more visible parts of the doll. And it is, like I say, really good practice, because this is exactly how we're going to fasten the head on. Exactly the same way, but you're working obviously on a slightly larger scale, because you've got a bigger area that you need to fasten and secure together. So I'm still sinking the needle into one fabric first and then into the other fabric. So I go into one fabric, come out the same fabric, and then go into the next fabric and come out again, and then pull it so that the two get pulled together. There we go. So now I'm at the end again, and going round the second time has neatened it up, and it also has definitely made it a stronger connection there, a stronger. So there's my little hand now, as if it's popping out of the sleeve, as it should be. And now all I need to do is get rid of that thread. Sometimes what I do is I go through the hand itself a few times, because that also secures it, and that's a good place to hide that skin colored thread that you're using, and that just helps it to secure the thread. So I go through the hand a few times, very close to the seam. So you can't see this in the on the outside of the hand at all. Oh, sorry, you can't see it in the screen even. It's that it's that hidden. So what I've been doing is going through the hand a few times to secure the thread, very close to the seam, and you can't see that really when you then just cut the thread after you've done this a few times. That's one way of securing the thread, getting rid of it. And then you repeat that on the other side, and I'll show you again how to do that. So the hand, I've shortened it to make it more manageable when I need to stuff it inside the sleeve here. And obviously when I put it inside the sleeve, what will happen is that the outer part of that sleeve is going to be visible on the hand. Can't even get that in. If you've got a small enough hand, you could actually try and push it through from the inside. Let's try that. Let's see what happens. There are, like I say, there are lots of ways of doing things. So because it's a nice stretchy fabric, you might be able to squeeze that hand through from the inside. Might need a little help with a stick. There. That pushed through. It is definitely fitting. So, oh, don't do that. You were all waiting for that to happen, right? I know you were. I know you were. Okay, I'm adamant to do it this way now, so I can show you it does work. So at least we know it fits, if nothing else. And I'm not going to use that stick now because I haven't got that much control. So come on, little hand. It's like, yeah, I won't say what it's like. You can all make that up. So, there we go. Yes, I've done it. There you are. There's your hand. It was come out from the other side. And then remember, you're using your skin colored sewing thread, so it matches the fist rather than the velour, only because the velour swallows up the stitches, but the skin colored fabric doesn't. So thread your needle. I use a double thread, and then I secure the thread by going under the arm into the arm seam. That's how I do it. Bearing in mind that I'm feeling extremely self-conscious that I'm not a very proficient sewer, so you might have fits at home thinking, oh, how can she do that? Has nobody taught her this, how to do this? And the answer is no, nobody's taught me this. So again, we're picking up bits of in my case, the yellow fabric, then going into the hand fabric, and then pulling it. And I think I'm going the other way around this time. So, and as I'm going along, I'm trying to fold the hand fabric inward. It does it automatically, but it might just need a little bit of help at your part to fold it inward so that you are actually catching the outer bits of that fabric rather than having the fluffier end of that velour showing on the outside. And remember, you can go over it again, but it would be good to have that fluffy bit on the inside, so just give it a little tuck either with your needle or use your fingers. Go round all the way till you get to the seam where you started under the arm, and then go round a second time to make it a really solid seam that can't be, little hand can't come off. I'm just reading the comments as I'm trying to concentrate on this as well. I'm going to go a little bit bigger with this screen, as you've seen all of this already, and then I can have a better chat as well while I'm finishing this little hand off. Right, I'm just going on a bigger screen. Hello, here I am again. I'm still here. So I'm finishing this little hand as you might be doing this at home, as it's a sew along. And what's everybody saying? Rooibos tea is South African tea. Yes, I don't actually know if I pronounce it right, but next time I see you, Jana, you can tell me how to pronounce it. I think it's Afrikaans for red bush. Is that right? Woohoo! Internet behaving better. Oh. I automatically wanted to speak more quietly when it didn't work. It's funny how that causes that reaction. So let's have a look. Yep, behaving here now too. I swear to you, I've done absolutely nothing. I haven't changed the setting. I should say I have, because that would make me sound like I know what I'm doing, but I haven't touched. I just looked at things that I've been told it should be running at that speed, and it did, but I haven't changed anything. So, oh, caught my scissors with a thread. There we go. Oh, I'm glad you said that, Faith. I always imagine that everybody else knows more when it comes to sewing than me, but I must also remember that some people might not know it. So I'm glad that showing you that stitch has helped you, because it is quite a magical stitch, I think, to make seams disappear. And if you're especially when you stuff things and then you're at the very end and you don't know how to sew that last bit up, that's a really good way of sewing it up. Anyway, so hi, I'm finally with you. Oh, hi, Jan. That's nice to hear from you. Looking fab, Steffi. Oh, thank you. Well, I must say, I have had, even though it's been an extra day at the weekend, I don't feel particularly refreshed. I don't really know why. I think when you feel quite anxious, and then also I thought that weekend was a really anxious weekend because we were all waiting to see what Boris Johnson had to say, which then I went from, oh, why is it not Sunday evening, wishing the weekend away, to feeling quite angry about, why are you leaving us in suspense? Why couldn't you have just told us on Friday? It wasn't like such a revolutionary, news. It's not as if, I don't know, I got really quite frustrated. I found it quite frustrating. So I feel a little bit like the weekend was just waiting for Sunday night. Thanks, Boris. Not what I had in mind. But I did have a nice weekend otherwise as well, because the Friday and Saturday were absolutely glorious weather, and we went into the woods, into the forest, I should say. This is actually, I'm talking about the Forest of Dean, and it is just absolutely magical, especially at this time of the year when the new green leaves. It's the kind of green that is almost as if it's I don't know, as if it's radioactive, if you see what I mean. It is such a fantastic color. And then throw in the blue of the bluebells, and maybe some white garlic, so that white wild garlic, so there isn't much wild garlic in the forest. We do have lots where we live, in that little wood where we live. But it's just fantastic, and I walked with the girls. When I say the girls, you would never quite know whether it's my girl children or my girl dogs. In this case, it was both. So I had 2 out of my 3 girl children with me, and all 3 girl dogs, and we had a really lovely walk, and we went to a place called St. Anthony's Well, where it's I think it was made by the monks, and it had it supposedly has healing powers. So I didn't dip my feet in there, I must admit, but my girls went in there, and that's both children girls and dog girls as well, human girls and dog girls. They went in there, and it was absolutely freezing cold. I don't know about any of you, but I'm a warm weather water person. So unless it's really, really hot and I need to cool off, I'm not going to go in the water. So it's I don't know why people go in cold water. Anyway, my second hand looks like it's coming along nicely. I've got the second time I've gone over it now. So I'm going to tidy the thread away now by going through the hand a couple of times as I'm chatting here. I'm going through there again. That's it. And then I can just cut the thread, and you can't really see the seam unless you look really, really closely, but it looks very, very tidy. So I'm just going to cut now. So what I've got now is I've got my doll with 2 hands, yay! And I've got the legs stuffed here. So now I've got to stuff the arms. That's the next thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to stuff the arms exactly the same way as I stuffed the legs. So I use my stuffing wool, and I start with a small quantity. Now, because it is I can actually get my fingers in there, so, but if you needed to have a little bit of help, just use a skewer or a knitting needle or the back of a pencil or anything that you sort of can push in there, to make it nice and firm, sit at the very end of the hand rather than flopping around, and then use a little bit more. So this wool that we are recommending to you, it's also a wool that is not recommended for wet felting. And I know we talked earlier about how to keep your doll clean, and I knew that all along, but I didn't want to encourage you to put your doll in the washing machine, because I really don't think you should be washing them in the washing machine. But anyway, it's your personal choice. You can always try it and see what happens. But it's not suitable for wet felting, because the wool, I think, in the process of it being washed, has already sort of had the first worst of the felting it doesn't feel felted at all, and you at home will second that, but it's not a great wool for wet felting. It's hard to wet felt, which just makes it perfect for stuffing wool, because you don't want it to felt. So I've stuffed one arm now, and I'm stopping short at the seam here, the shoulder seam, so that there is movement in the arm. And now I'm going to stuff the other side. So I'm not weighing out the wool, or this is how much I need on one side and this is how much I need on the other side. I'm going by feeling how solidly it's stuffed and how much I can fit in there, and then I'll just put a bit more if I need to. And I'm going right into the end. It really pays off if you want your doll to be stuffed properly, because also the as it gets played with and manhandled, the stuffing will get pushed a little bit more tightly, so at some point the doll might feel a little bit looser than it did before you stuffed it. So that's just one of those things that happens to dolls. So a tight stuffed body definitely pays off. So pushing that in there, see how I go now with the arms. Yeah, so that looks quite good. Now I've discovered something, and this I'm not embarrassed to show you this, because this might happen to you. Things sometimes go wrong. I've not sewn under the arm very well. Can you see that? It's just popped open with me stuffing. Not a problem, because if you know now the invisible stitch, you don't have to take the whole thing apart again. I've no idea how this has happened. This wasn't planned. It's a genuine mistake, or a genuine oversight. I probably rushed it. But it's good that you find out now that there is a weak spot. I'm just going to thread my yellow thread, because I'm matching it to the velour. And I'm going to sew this with an invisible stitch, as I have just been doing on the outside. And that should take care of it quite easily now. So I'm just securing my stitch. I'm just going to go a little bit smaller, so that you can actually see what I'm doing here. So I've got a hole here under the arm where the fabric opened up as I stuffed the wool into it. And that, like I say, it's good to find out where your weak spots are, because it's better you find it out, or when they just emerge later. So I'm going to go under the arm, and I'm doing exactly what I did before, where I grab a bit of the fabric from either end, and I'm pulling it tight so that I can close this gap up without having a seam on the outside. So I'm putting the seam on the inside of the doll by pulling the two bits that I pick up with the wool and push them together, so the unsightful bit disappears inside. I'm even going to go a little bit smaller so you can see it really close up. This is not this has not been planned. This is a real life blooper. Okay, this is something that's happened, that I've realized as I'm stuffing the doll. I've got a weak spot, and the seam popped open where it shouldn't have done. So I'm closing it up, and this is one of the other reasons why I love this velour, because you can actually do it so easily with this without causing any sort of unsightfulness, because it's such a forgiving fabric. It swallows up the stitches really easily. So now I need to just go along that seam a little bit more to sort of ease that stitch along the seam that should have been that's already there, because you're catching extra fabric, you're creating a bit of a groove there. And then I'm actually going to go over it again, turning round and going over it again, because I really want to make sure that this underarm seam is absolutely solid. So I'm mending, in a way I'm mending the doll that shouldn't even be broken in the first place. But if you have to mend the doll in the future, at least you also know that this is entirely possible, that you can do this afterwards as well. And this velour is very forgiving. It does swallow up the stitches. Love it. As well as being very nice and bright and colourful. So, and then I just need to tidy my stitch, my thread away in the stitches, and then we can continue as planned with the rest of the stuffing of the doll and then sewing the head on, and then sewing the hat on. We're sewing the hat on last because the hat is meant to sit sort of at the nape of the doll's back, and I'll show you on a picture what I mean by that. It's meant to look as if the hat sort of is part of the actual body outer, so it's like a big suit or something like that. That's why we're sewing the hat on after we've sewn on the head. So I've got my doll here with stuffed legs, stuffed arms, and all I need to stuff now is the body. The body bit, what I tend to do is I actually roll the wool up this time into a nice round fat ball, even add a bit more, and then I fit it inside the body. Again, you can have it as tight as you want or as loose as you want. I think if you want to stuff it looser, then that's absolutely fine. And I'm going in through the head part. If you're making these dolls smaller, because you can scale them down, you might want to leave these parts on the side of the arm unstuffed for now, because then you have got an opportunity to stuff more inside, and you don't have to sort of strain at the seams as I've just done. Now, this one is a little bit softer, and I'm going to leave it soft. Then I have stuffed the little blue one. He's a little bit fatter. But in any case, it doesn't really matter. However you like it, put as little or as much in as you want. The other thing you can do is you can make a separate little ball and give him a bit of a bum. So just rolling up a separate. Remember that the back is not where the seams are. So there's no seams showing at the back at all. Give him a bit of a bottom by putting that into place. So he's got more here on the back than he's flatter at the front, and that works quite well as well. So you can manipulate the shaping of the doll through the stuffing as well. And what you see me do now is I'm poking a hole inside that ball that I've made, because I need to have a nice cavity in there that's completely surrounded by wool, so that the head can fit into that hole, so that I don't feel the fabric on the outside. That's quite important. So my head's on there now. Looks a little bit like it's shrugging his shoulders. That's fine for now. So what you have two options now. You can either put pins around the head so that it stays in place. I tend not to do that. What I tend to do is I tend to use the thread that matches the skin. So you use your lighter colored thread. Again, for the same reason as for the reasons that we used it for the hands. And what I do is I'll just go round the head with a few stitches first, and you start, that's a sort of like a golden rule. You always start at the place where it doesn't matter if a bit of thread looks out, because we're going to put a hat on this doll. It doesn't matter if you see the end of the thread there. That's just where it's going to be, and there would be a lot more if you've sewn the features on. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it a stitch into the yellow here, because I need to make sure that the head is actually on straight there. So I'm making sure the hat is on straight. Sorry, not the hat, the head even. So I'm just giving it a couple of stitches by holding the head into place and just really loosely going round the doll. Again, doing the invisible stitch, sewing it straight into the doll fabric, into the stockinette fabric, head fabric, and going round. But it's not fastened on very well at all, because I'm going to do that in a minute. So at the moment I'm putting the stitches as low as I can on the head itself, so I can expose lots of skin. And it's not fastened on very well at all. It's just so that it's put in the right place. Or you can do this by putting pins into it. So tucking all the bits in that we don't want to see on the outside. And checking that the head hasn't moved position. Still holding on to him, onto the head quite well. And coming round almost full circle now. Gripping that yellow fabric and then the skin colored fabric. All with the same needle, but literally going in and out of the yellow fabric and then going in and out of the skin colored fabric. And because the hole is slightly bigger than the base of the head, it will look a little bit like it's gathered, the fabric, the yellow fabric in my case, or whatever color velour you're using. So don't worry about that, that's absolutely fine. Now that I've gone the full circle, I'm going to make it a neater job by going round it again. Now, there's a bit of that thread sticking out, that's a bit annoying me, so I'm going to cut it off there. So now I'm going over it again. I know now that the head is in the right position. It's not going to move because I've sewn it, I've literally tacked it on there, and I'm going to go around it again, trying to make sure that I stay in the camera view, because this little camera, this close-up view, it's easy to move into the wrong place. So I'm literally going round it again. This is exactly what we did with the hand, but this time it's on a slightly larger scale, and I'm not even so worried what the back of the head looks like, because remember, the hat is going to go on top of there. So this is a good place to start to get used to the stitch, and to tidy your thread away, and then make sure that when you get to the side and to the front of the doll's head, that it's really, really neat, as that will be what it looks like at the end of the day. You can't hide that. Put a scarf around him if you wanted to. So we're very, very nearly there. Just get the head nice and secure. Now the head is one of the things, I know it sounds terrible, but when you give a doll to a child, I can guarantee you, especially a small child, they often carry them around on their heads. So the heads need to be nice and firm, and it's not that they mean to be, they're not mean to the doll, it's just they don't think like that yet. And if you see children interacting, you might see an older child say, "Oh, you're carrying it by its head," or him or her by the head. That's really horrible. But yeah, that's just what little children do. They don't particularly think in that way. There we go. Keep going around there, making sure I'm still in the picture. So you can see this part looks a lot neater than that part where I've only tacked it on, and I'm even going a third time around the head because I really want that head to be so solid on there. I don't ever want it to come off. It'd be so annoying if it did. Still doing my invisible stitching there. So Sophie's not watching today. Well, I don't think she is, because there's just always so much to do that it would be such a luxury if she could just hang out and watch me, and probably would get very bored with me and having to listen to me all day as well. But the one thing I will tell you is that this live stream is taking place on the 11th of May, and she'll absolutely hate me for saying this, but it's her birthday tomorrow. So for those who are watching, I'm just going to go a bit bigger. You just all have to wish her a happy birthday one way or another. I'll leave it to you how you want to do that, but you can ring us as well if you want. And yes, she will be in tomorrow morning. I don't know whether she's going to be in the afternoon. I think she has plans to go home, but it is her birthday tomorrow, so it'd be nice if she got lots of birthday wishes, because she doesn't really advertise her birthday. Like I said, she'd probably kill me if she heard me say that. I've gone really quiet now as well, not that she can hear me, but yeah, just wish her a happy birthday. So still going around this head. So this is the back. You can see it's really important to tuck it, because what I've done is my seam of the back of the head is not actually in the center. It's slightly off the center, but still my head is in is dead straight on the front. So it's really good to make sure that you tuck the head on and check that it's actually the front of the head. That's the important bit, that's in the right place. It doesn't matter if the back of the head is slightly off center where the seam is, unless that really bothers you. It's really hard luck if it does, because there's not much you can do about it. Unless you prefer the head to look to one direction, then that's entirely your design. I have made dolls where they accidentally have the head slightly turned, and they're just as cute as well, so it's not like it's terrible. And I'm going round it a third time because it's really important to have that on properly. Small stitches, keep going around it, and you will notice now that it really pays off to have when you first tuck the doll, to go really close to the bottom of the head, so that you don't have a stitch showing in the face, because you want to see as much of the head as possible. And obviously you could have a stitch there. It's not, again, if you have a stitch, that's not the end of the world. You can always undo what you've done and start again. You're learning something new, and if that means you have to just, you know, do it once and then do it again, it's not the end of the world. That's how we learn, I suppose. So I'm going around there one more time, just to be double sure that this head is not going anywhere. And just looking at it, he looks really sweet actually. It's got a nice little face. Hello. Yeah, I really like it. If you need to know what the color skin is that I'm using here, I don't know if I pronounce it right, but it's basically cacao, and I called it cocoa before because I thought that was spelled the same way, but I might just be I think if I had to pronounce this in German, I would say cacao. But I don't know how you spell cocoa then, you know, if you drink cocoa, hot chocolate basically. But it's called cacao, and it's the light variety of the stockinette skin that we sell as one of many different colors. And the Hannes doll, which is this one here, he's got that's the beige, we call that beige, that's skin color. And then I think this one is called natural, potentially. Yeah, I think it is. It's one of our best-selling colors, that one, because it's quite a pale, yeah, quite a pale, almost a little bit pink color skin. Right. So I'm going, this is my third time around the head, so I'm running out of thread now as well, which I don't want to run out of thread unless I'm on the back of the head. So I'm actually going to go through the back now. So I've got enough thread here to tidy it away, and I'll call that done. If you want to be super secure, then go around a fourth time. There's yeah, you can't really go wrong by going around it again. Right, there we are. So that's my head secure now. Yeah, looking nice. Arms are nice and movable, so they can be pulled forward. The legs move. He's got a slight bum here, it's like a slight dent there. So that's quite nice. So all he needs now is his hat. And I'm going to have a little look what you're all up to. So let's have a look. Kathy, oh Kathy, I thought you couldn't make it. Just a quick hello, as I can't stay today. Okay, that explains it. We'll catch up with video later. And before I forget, I'm going to show you the photo that I was telling you about of some people sharing their pictures. And I still haven't worked out how to do it on the screen, so I've got to show you this. So Cassie, you will see your doll there, on there. Maybe I should use the other camera and then you can see it even better. There you go. Oh, just had a message come through as well. Let's not have messages there. Okay, try and get this right. There we go. So you can see, I just absolutely love it. Aren't they so different and so special? I love it. Look, little red doll with that cute little face. Oh, screen's gone now. Anyway, I'd love to see all the finished dolls when they're all properly done in the setting of your homes, or maybe children playing with them. Be lovely to see them. So mine here just needs his hat now. I'm just going to stay in that close-up mode. There's the little hat. It's as I said to you before, it came from this template, which basically is double the size of the hat, and you sew it together at the straight, longer parts of this cone shape. And again, when you put the hat on, what needs to happen is the slightly frayed seam needs to be obviously tucked away on the inside, and again we can achieve that with the invisible stitch. So I'm just going to put the hat on now so that I can see what he looks like. I've got his hat on, and I want it to be as close as I can to the back here. So I'm pulling it right down into the into his neck, and then turn it over, and I can adjust the front. So you can now either tuck in a little bit of this seam as you go along, and that will also help you to, if you want the hat a bit shorter, you can make it a bit shorter, pull it down a bit more. So it's quite a tight fit because that head is a little bit bigger than the ones that I've done before, but that's okay. Again, the velour is very stretchy, and he's got fat little cheeks. So this is how much of the hair that you can show, or you can show more. It's entirely up to you, as long as you don't show the bits of the head that you don't want showing. And again, unsurprisingly, I'm starting to sew on the hat from the back, and again, unsurprisingly, I'm using the skin colored thread. So just getting that sorted now, getting that on the needle. And there we go. And again, I'm starting to tidy the end of my thread away. I'm even doing this in that skin colored head, because I can pull the hat down again. Oh, got into a muddle there already. Okay, this reminds me of that German saying, langes Fädchen, faules Mädchen, which means a long thread is a lazy girl. Oh boy, more inclusive. It's not there. That's it. So I've secured the thread. I'm just going to cut a few of the ends off because they're going to get in my way and they're going to annoy me. But the thread is secure, and now I'm going to go into my body yellow first, and then I'm going to catch that hat, so that I pull the seam inside by catching the yellow of the hat and pulling it. And it's the pulling bit that does the magic in hiding the seam, because that's, you're pulling that inside now. So I'm just going to go over the back quite thoroughly, because I want the back of the hat to touch the yellow fabric, because it looks then as if the hat has got is part of the outfit. And then you're really hiding all of the things that you want to hide, that's been going on at the back of the head. So that's the best way to do that, is to pretend that the hat is part of the outfit. And then at some point you're going to have to not go into the yellow, but you actually sewing the hat to the head of the doll. And you obviously have to do that. At the moment my seam is here, and I'm going to have to later on come as far as that before I go into the head fabric. But now is the time for me on this side to actually sew the hat onto the head, and I'm doing this in exactly the same way as I've done it with the hands and the head. I go into the head itself, pick up a bit of the head fabric there, and then go into the yellow, and again that's an invisible thread, an invisible stitch. And if you go all the way round, that way you can sew the hat on. If you you can of course also hem the hat if you want to do that first, so have all this inner fabric that I'm now tucking out of the way, and I'm doing this because it's a quicker way of doing it. But if you wanted to hem your hat first and then just sew it on onto the doll with a little bit of the hem, the nice part of the hem showing, you can do that too. This way is just a quicker way where you don't have to do an extra hemming of the hat, if that makes sense at all. I want to say it's because I'm always somebody to do things quickly, but if you are a proper sewer, which I'm not, then this might offend you, which of course is not what I'm intending at all. It's just that it works faster that way for me. And this is the way that you fasten the hat on. Now, as you can see, again the thread gets completely swallowed up by this lovely velour, so you don't have to worry about that at all. And I should just show you. This is the other doll that I made. It's very similar but different. And because I've used the sleeve of a jumper, this is actually the sleeve of a jumper. This one has got a removable hat, but if you didn't want to have a hat matching the body of doll, you could use a jumper, and you could and yes, I have given this doll a proper back of the head. But if you had if you wanted to sew it on, you wouldn't have to sew it straight into the end of the sleeve. You could run a stitch across here so that this looks actually like it's loose. And just hide the stitch there. So that's just another way of how you could sew a hat on if you wanted it to be a permanent fixture. With these dolls, they're sort of all the same color body as they are the same hat, so it looks like they've got a little matching outfit on that has got the hat attached to it. It's worth checking constantly to make sure that you're sewing the hat on in the right place. So because you need to have it ideally symmetrical, unless you are wanting it to be slightly hanging off from one side. Again, that's entirely up to you if you want to add character to the doll or give it a different appearance. Then just keep checking that, especially when you get round the other side, that the hat is actually in the same position as on the other side. So the same distance forward into the head. And again, you could just tack this and then go over it again. In fact, definitely go over it twice, so that it's again very secure, because not only do they hold onto the head, they also hold onto the hat if you're giving this to a small child. If it's just a doll that's sitting on your sofa, then it's not so important, but it would be a shame if whoever plays with it. It would be a shame because they would be mortified probably if they broke it. So this is how I'm getting on now. So now I've got to just make sure that the hat is also pulled forward enough to sit on that side of the head the same way. If you are this is mainly for the people who are watching this live. If you're watching this later, it will all be gone probably. But I'm back on Creating Craft on Sunday, and I'm introducing doll making onto Creating Craft, and there'll be some exciting new products that we don't currently sell to do with the Doll's House, dolls, which of course after Creating Craft we usually introduce them to our website as well. Just double checking, looking good. Oh, caught the end of the hat in there. I'm just reading what people are writing, so I'm going to go a bit bigger, otherwise you wonder what the heck is she doing. So just having a quick look. Steffi, don't worry about your sewing. It works for you and is sewn with lots of love. That's what I like to hear. Exactly. So if you have a love in your heart and you sew however you like, who cares if some people think it's not done the right way? It's how you feel that matters. And if you like the look of it and if it's solid on there, who cares how it's done? I think with needle felting, which is sort of the main thing that we're doing, that there are not so many ground rules yet because it's such a new craft and we're quite pioneers at it as well. So sometimes we are taken aback when people say, "Oh, that's not how it's done. That's not how the makers do it." And we say, "Oh, there's lots of way of doing this. You know, you don't have to do it just one way. There's lots of ways." But I think with sewing, I feel a little bit more self-conscious because it's such an established craft, and there are so many, I don't know, experts who say this is how it's done, this way or die, and so I always say there's no craft police, but I don't know if I can say that about sewing. So yeah, I don't think it helps having, having programs where it's like, this is how you properly do it and this is how you're meant to do that. It's a bit like with baking as well. I'm the worst baker because I can't always improvise all the time, which my children often say, "Mum, have you followed the recipe?" It's like, probably not. So yeah, but sometimes it does pay off to do it exactly how you're meant to do it. Anyway, it's creative freedom. There we go. What else is going on? Faith, such beautiful photos. I loved that you named the trees, especially the belly button one. Oh, you're talking about the photos that I've been posting on my Facebook page. Yes, so there is a tree in the forest that sort of I thought it was dead, but it's not dead. It must have at some point been knocked down by winds and storms. But it has got a little bit life left in it. But it has got the most amazing, expressive outer bark, and it looks like a belly button on one side, and it looks like lots of other things as well. I'm just always looking at it, thinking, depending how the light shines on it, what sort of things emerge out of it. So, thank you, Faith, for mentioning that. I don't take photos every time I go for a walk. I have to be in the right frame of mind, and sort of, it's almost like just reflecting on what's going on in my life as well. And I went for a walk not so long ago, and all I wanted to do is like literally crawl on all my fours and take photos from an ant perspective, which was really fun because I suddenly saw things that I thought, oh, I had never looked at life like that, and it works sometimes. Just going on your hands and knees and looking at things in a different way. Why not? Because reality is not really reality. It's all a perspective, isn't it? How you view it and how things are viewed. By the way, don't do this in your kitchen on your hands and knees, because you see things like toddlers and dogs, and you guarantee feel really, really terrible about the state of one. I felt terrible about the state of my kitchen, where you can suddenly look under kitchen units and between cracks and things that you normally don't see if you're like sort of 5 foot above everything. But it's quite funny because you think, oh my goodness, this is how toddlers and dogs see things, and cats. Just as well, they can't tell you. So it's quite funny. Yes, spot on, pronounced correct. So I think that was either the cocoa or the cacao. I don't know now which one is pronounced correct, but it's a lovely color. I love this color. Such a beautiful color. And I'm getting to the back of the head here now. So Diana is saying Roy means red, and Boss, or I say Roy Bosch, but that's probably pronounced wrong, is bush, so it's red bush. Yes, looking looked freezing. That's outside, I guess, today. Would they felt? So no, I don't think those wool naps would felt over time either. I think they're just they're, I think I'm not entirely sure how wool naps are created, but I'm kind of guessing that they're sort of already partially felted. I'm probably telling you the completely wrong thing now, but these look definitely more felted to me than the actual stuffing wool here. So I just think I come back to the care of because it's the one question that people do ask: how do I clean the doll? And I think the best thing is to just use a wet cloth if you need to go over it, or wash it really really gently in like you would wash your most precious cashmere or even more precious material items, an antique, something like that. So you would treat it a little bit like that. And I really think if you give a doll to play with a child, don't worry too much if they get a bit grubby. That's just how it is. I know that people always say, "Oh, it needs to be washed. It needs to be washed." But I actually don't think, that's my personal view, that everything needs to be totally clean, and it just builds their immunity. That's what it does. So what I've done here now is I've done the same distance. This is the seam of the back of the hat. I've sewn it the same distance onto the yellow to the left and to the right, so it looks even. And this is currently what it looks like from the front. So he's got his chubby little cheeks here, and I'm going to leave it as that. But if you are doing this as a project for a child, I really need you to go over it for a second, if not a third time, just to make sure the hat's fastened on absolutely solid. I'm just going to tidy my thread away at the back here again, because it's out of sight, and just going in and out a few times. This velour is so forgiving, it just swallows up the stitches, like I said. And then I'm just going to cut the thread off. Now I'm going to tell you a couple of other things. Your doll is finished now, but there are a couple of things that you could be doing if you wanted to. So my little doll, my little I want to say banana doll now, because somebody put that in my head, but it's Sunny Doll. We're calling it Sunny Doll. It's such a bright, lovely yellow fabric. He or she has got the legs that sort of bend, but if you wanted to, you could put a couple of stitches along just here, and you have to make sure that you do the same on the other side if you want to enhance that that kind of, it's not a joint, but if you wanted to make it more obvious. It's already got this here in where the arms are, because that's how we've sewn the fabric together. You could also put a tiny little stitch here across the top of the foot and pull it tight, and that means it gives it almost like a little toe part. So if you wanted to do that, you could do that too. I don't think I've got any dolls here right now that have got that done. That's just an extra suggestion. So you literally just go from the seam here on the side across there, and you do it in a stitch that you can pull nice and tight, and then that will automatically bring the toe part up like that. You could try it. If you don't like it, you can always undo it. That's one thing you can do. You can also rosy their cheeks in. Now, did I bring? I can't remember now if I brought a pencil. I didn't. If you have a colored pencil, you can just put a little bit of color on there. I did it with this one here. Can you see? Try it first on a piece of fabric where you're not so worried about if you go wrong. Don't use an oil crayon. It's definitely not a good idea, because it will just stain the fabric with oil, with grease. So use a color pencil. And the other thing you could do is you could use some blusher. Of course you could. Oh, come on, open. Why does it? Oh yes, it does open that way. If you had a bit of blusher and you want to give rosy cheeks, then just put a little bit on your finger and put it on the side of there, and then just rub it in, and that way you can also blush their cheeks a little bit. It's quite nice. If it's too much on there, just give it a bit of a blow, and then repeat it on the other side. It's very, very easy to get carried away with this, I'm telling you now, so don't go crazy and put full-blown makeup onto the dolls. And then if you had a little, if you have another colourful pencil, you could give them freckles. Again, I didn't bring that down, but I've got a pencil here. So if you, it's better with a brown pencil, like proper colour. And you could just, and the way to do the freckles, if you're doing freckles, is to keep them really symmetrical. It just looks better. Just see if I've got any. Oh yeah, I've got a doll here with freckles. Just, oh come on, you got me. There. So there you go, Tomka doll. She's got freckles. I don't even know if you can see it. Can you see it? She's got them just here around her face. I'm just going to take a different camera view so you can hopefully see it better. There you go. You can see it much better this way. There, she's got freckles. Can you see? So I've actually put the exact same amount of freckles. Sorry, she's got something else on her face now as well. That's not a freckle, that's just a bit of fluff. She's got the same amount of freckles in the same constellation on either side. So they can be around the eyes. You can put some on the nose, but I would go less is more. Don't over egg it, because once you've got them on there, there's nothing you can do to take them off. And I remember I did actually do freckles on one of the dolls, and I used a felt tip pen, and it smudged. Can you see how it, well, it didn't smudge, it ran into the fabric, and then I used a pencil on the other side. So if you're too frightened to do this, don't spoil the doll, but you could always try your pens out on a piece of fabric. And by the way, she has been loved and she has been played with, and she is grubby, and she's got dirty feet, and you know, I just think that's just a toy that's been loved and played with, and what do you do, you know? It's just part of life. So yes, you could just draw a couple of freckles on there. I daren't actually do it with a pencil, so I'm going to find a proper brown pen and do it, but I've definitely given them some rosy cheeks. And like I say, if you haven't got a red pencil, then just use a bit of blusher. That's perfectly okay, or just as they are. And yeah, I guess that's the doll done. So now there were 3. So excited. Have to make all the other colors now as well. But I think it looks really nice together, the 3 of them. There you go. All done. Let's just see what other people are saying. Is that different if you use nets? Or no, I've answered that. Chris, it's not wrong. Just say you planned it that way so you can show possible issues. I think Chris is referring to the tear under the arm. Yeah, I genuinely didn't plan it, but it was a happy accident that I could show you that if you needed to, don't even know which side it was now, I think it was this one, you can still make amendments if you find that, oops, something's gone wrong. Oh yes, I see. Yes, we're still talking about cocoa and cacao. Oh, there is actually a difference. So this one we've got is cacao, and cocoa is spelled differently. Do you know what? I've never noticed that. Learn something new all the time. And the K, yes, maybe it came from the German spelling. No idea. I just spelt it with a K for some reason. Dave says it looks like an elf on the shelf. He hates elf on the shelf. Should I kick him? Well, I can't really tell you that, but if you know me well enough, you know that, right? I would never say kick your husband, but yes. Which, he thinks it looks like an elf on the shelf. This one here. Tell him to have his eyes checked. Don't kick him. Just go and send him away to have his eyes checked. Does this look like an elf? Wonder what you did with him now. I guess, oh yeah, we've gone over that K and cacao spelling. Wow, that looks lovely. Oh, is it the blusher on the doll? I hope, maybe that's what you're referring to. Loving red doll hair. Yes, I love. When I made my first dolls, they always had red hair. I just couldn't help myself having to make red hair dolls. Just think they're amazing. This one here is we sell this on our website as well. This hair is actually a knitting yarn called the Retreat from West Yorkshire Spinners, and it's what they call a pencil roving, or what anybody would call a pencil roving. And it's unspun wool that works really well for doll hair as well, and looks just like the messy look as well. Um, so which side of the doll is the front? Which side of the doll is the front? So which side of the doll is the front? Do you need to clarify that, Chris? So the front of the doll is where the seams are. I know that seems weird that you actually have the front of the doll where the seams for the shoulders are, but it's because it gives them a natural falling forward, which is what arms do, rather than if you had it on the back, the arms would fall backwards, and that would be, they sort of slightly lean forward because you've got the seam here at the front. I hope that is the question that you needed answering. So otherwise it's pretty obvious that this is the front of the doll and this is the back now. Oh, Donna, you're adamant that this doll is called Daffodil, not Sunny. Okay, well, she can be Daffodil to you. Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Sorry we're late. I got Totti's name wrong last week. Daniel loved to see your tortoise. Yes. So Totti, if you haven't met her, she's in one of the live streams. I can't remember which one, which is now a video, obviously, on our website, on our YouTube channel. And I brought Totti along because she's our Herman tortoise. I think we worked out that she is now. My daughter got her for her 12th birthday, and my daughter's 70. She's 5 years old now. So a 5-year-old tortoise, if you want to see her, but I can't remember which video she's on now. What else is going on here? What sort of accessories would you add, or do you prefer to see them more natural? So for these little dolls, I think, because I always see them as a very first doll for a small child, and small children often struggle to put accessories onto dolls. So I think this one is probably best kept as it is. But if you do want to make more dolls, and you can make them like this one here. This is Tomka doll. And obviously she has got a naked body, so her skin on here is the same fabric as what you use for the head. And then there are lots of ideas in the book of how you can dress them up and what you can make for them. But as a beginner's doll for you to make, or for you to give to a smaller child, these are brilliant. And I just flick through the books so you can have an idea of what you can make in terms of accessories for the different dolls, because there's plenty to choose from. I think there are... oh yeah, here we go. So you can make... A lot of the accessories are either... This, for example, was an old woolly jumper. So this is the woolly jumper dress that you can make for Tomka doll. There is also a crochet dress, so you've got a pattern in there for making a crochet dress. I don't know if I've got that one here. There's still some stuff that's left at the publishers, which has been tricky to get because they're all furloughed there. Then there's a multicolored jumper. That one is all knitted. The knitting pattern is in there as well. And a pair of trousers knitted as well. These items always remind me of my childhood because my mum used to knit and crochet dolls' clothes for my dolls, and then she would make a matching set for me. And as I was a child of the 70s, you can imagine what color they were. In fact, I ought to bring in a photo. It's absolutely hideous. It's basically orange, yellow, and green, and if I was lucky, there might even be a bit of brown in there. And I would walk around looking like a complete... I won't say the word, but it starts with a T, and my doll looked just like that. I don't know what was worse, the doll or me. Probably me. Anyway, you can also make some dungarees. And these are not, you don't have to make them as in knitting them. They are made from old clothes, jumpers, and so on. And then there's some crocheted pants. If you like the look of that, you could make them bigger and wear them yourself. Why ever not? There's a hat in there, knitting pattern for a hat, and then a knitting pattern for a different type of hat. And oh yes, and then a hat from the sleeve. So if you don't want to knit anything, but you've got an old jumper, perfect. And then you also get the pattern to make these little booties, which Tomka has got on her feet there. I used to make boots like that for my children when they were little. And that's it. Yes, so you can work out plenty of accessories for your dolls, whether it's a boy doll or a girl doll, hats, dresses, trousers, pants, shoes, all of that is possible too. And then if you get into making the dolls with the really massive hair, you can put it into pigtails, or you can put it into a ponytail, or you can plait it. There's plenty of things that the children can do with hair, and that also is a part of accessorizing them, because you can put a nice little bunched up hairband in there. So hope that answers that question. It's quite an elaborate answer. Which love the finished doll. Will send pictures. Yes, please, Alex, do send pictures. I'd love to see them. Your doll will be like children. Everyone is individual. No two are the same. Absolutely right. And I've made all 3 of these, and they all look different. And I've used exactly the same method, and their little faces are totally different. Notwithstanding that, obviously, I didn't felt a face onto her or embroidered any. But they're completely different, even these 2 who've got very similar faces. So thank you ever so much, Steffi. I'm looking forward to making one, and my daughter wants to make one with me, as she enjoyed watching you so much. Oh, that's lovely, Face. Thank you very much for that. I take that as a real compliment. Oh, I see. Jana's husband thought that her doll looked like an elf on the shelf. I'm sure it doesn't, but yes, in that case, I would definitely kick him. Please bring in photos. That sounds so precious. Chris, yeah, it was. Thank you. Well, that's really nice. I think we're at the end of all the comments, so this might be a good time to say goodbye to everybody. If you've got any questions, get in touch with us. We are fully operational by phone, by email, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all of that. Just get in touch, and don't forget to tune in again to our next live stream, which I believe is to make a wreath. We're going back to needle felting, and it's such an easy way to prepare a wire wreath into a base, so you can needle felt onto it until your heart's content. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you then, and you can find the events that are happening on YouTube either on our website or on our Facebook page. There's a whole stream of events listed there, and yeah, really looking forward to seeing you then. And until then, do share your dolls with us that you have made at any point, whether this is now or in the future. We would love to see them, and you're always very welcome to share pictures with us, because that's what keeps us making more things, and yeah, just keeps us creative and loving it all. So thank you so much, and see you next time, when I'm going to be here again on YouTube, hopefully all in one piece and not stuttering or disappearing, but I think we got that worked out. So take care and see you soon. Bye bye.